Imagine waking up tomorrow morning and nothing has changed. Your habits, your routines, your mindset are exactly the same. How different would your life feel a year from now? Often, we underestimate the quiet, almost invisible power of tiny actions, those micro habits that, when repeated consistently, have the potential to reshape our destiny. Shi Heng Yi once shared a story with me that perfectly illustrates this. As a young man, he struggled with feeling stuck, watching the world pass by as if he were invisible to his own dreams. Each day, he'd tell himself he'd start tomorrow, and tomorrow became a string of missed opportunities. But one day, he decided to take one small step, just 5 minutes of focused effort on a goal he had long ignored. That small, seemingly insignificant action sparked a chain reaction he never could have imagined. Shi Heng Yi realized that our lives aren't transformed by giant leaps overnight, they're sculpted by the accumulation of seemingly trivial choices. Drinking an extra glass of water, writing a single sentence toward a goal, taking a short walk instead of scrolling endlessly. These are not monumental, but over time, they compound into extraordinary outcomes. Picture a snowball rolling down a hill, gathering momentum, picking up more snow with every rotation until it becomes an unstoppable force. That is the essence of micro habits, tiny, consistent actions that grow silently but powerfully. He often says, most people fail not because they aim too high, but because they overlook the impact of the small steps along the way. I remember Shi Heng Yi telling me about the first morning he decided to meditate for 3 minutes. Just 3 minutes, before doing anything else. 3 minutes seemed laughably insignificant, yet that short period shifted his mindset, his focus, and his emotional balance. From there, he added one more micro habit, then another, like planting seeds that eventually grew into a thriving forest of personal growth. Each habit alone felt negligible, but together, they created a life he had only dared to dream of. Pause for a moment. Reflect on your own life. Are there micro habits you've dismissed as too small to matter? Consider the daily decisions you brush aside, the tiny actions you think won't move the needle. Shi Heng Yi challenges us to reframe our perspective. No action is too small when it's applied consistently with intention. It's in these seemingly trivial moments that the foundation for greatness is laid. He tells stories of people who transform their health, relationships, and careers simply by focusing on manageable, bite-sized improvements rather than chasing overwhelming, intimidating goals. One of his students, for instance, struggled with writing a book for years. Each attempt felt paralyzing until she started writing just 1 paragraph per day. At first, she thought, this won't get me anywhere. But Shi Heng Yi reminded her that the compound effect of 1 paragraph every day is unstoppable. A year later, she had completed her manuscript. She didn't sprint, she didn't force monumental progress. She simply honored the power of small, consistent steps. The lesson is simple yet profound. The micro habits you practice quietly today will define the life you live loudly tomorrow. Shi Heng Yi's own journey exemplifies this principle. He wasn't born with extraordinary talent or privilege. He was a regular person facing the same fears, doubts, and distractions we all encounter. What set him apart was his dedication to tiny, intentional actions, habits that most people overlook because they don't offer instant gratification. He started by reading 2 pages of a personal development book each morning. That small habit led him to expand his knowledge, then to connect with mentors, then to apply lessons consistently. Over years, these small habits compounded into wisdom, skill, and opportunity. And here's something crucial. Micro habits aren't just about achieving external goals. They shape your identity. Shi Heng Yi emphasizes that when you perform a small habit consistently, you're telling yourself, I am the kind of person who takes action, even when it's difficult. Each tiny choice reinforces the story you tell yourself about who you are and who you're becoming. Stop for a moment and think about that. Every habit, no matter how small, is a vote for the person you want to be. Even in moments of doubt, when motivation wavers, the discipline of micro habits carries you forward. Shi Heng Yi recalls days when he felt exhausted, uninspired, or overwhelmed. On those days, he didn't abandon his routines. He shrank them down to the smallest possible action. One push-up, one sentence written, one deep breath meditated, and he discovered a hidden truth: momentum builds from motion, no matter how small. By honoring these micro steps, he stayed aligned with his purpose, steadily advancing toward a life he once thought was unattainable. As you listen to this, consider the seemingly small habits you could start today that would change your tomorrow. Drinking more water, standing for a few extra minutes, journaling a thought, sending a message you've been delaying. These are not mere tasks. They are tiny investments in your future self. Shi Heng Yi insists that the key is consistency, not perfection. Micro habits don't demand heroic effort. They demand daily commitment, and over time, their impact becomes revolutionary. Pause again and imagine your life 1 year from now if you committed to one tiny habit today. Picture the person you could become. The power of micro habits lies in this very principle. Small actions, repeated with intention, produce results that feel magical only in hindsight. They teach patience, discipline, and faith in the process, reshaping your mind, body, and spirit without requiring monumental effort. Shi Heng Yi's voice often carries a quiet urgency when he says, "Don't wait for the perfect conditions, the huge inspiration, or the massive motivation. Start with one small action right now, no excuses." He shares countless stories of ordinary people transforming into extraordinary beings simply by embracing micro habits. Actions so small they initially seem trivial, but when compounded, unleash profound, lasting change. And so begins the journey. Today, you have a choice: continue with inertia, or take one tiny action that aligns with your dreams. A single moment of courage, repeated consistently, can ignite momentum that changes everything. Shi Heng Yi's life, and the lives he has touched, prove this principle over and over again. The snowball has begun to roll, and now it's your turn to add the first snow. As the snowball begins to roll, Shi Heng Yi reminds us that the beauty of micro habits is their adaptability. They don't require perfection, just presence. He often illustrates this with his own morning routine. Some days, he meditates for 30 minutes. Other days, he barely manages 3. Yet, even on those minimal days, he recognizes the power of showing up. That tiny act alone reinforces his identity and keeps the chain unbroken. Imagine the relief and motivation you feel simply by knowing you honored your commitment. No matter how small the effort, the key lesson here is that progress is not measured in grandeur, but in consistency. Each micro habit, though seemingly insignificant in isolation, compounds into unstoppable momentum. Shi Heng Yi tells the story of a woman named May, a young professional burdened by stress and self-doubt. She had dreams of starting her own business, but felt paralyzed by fear. Instead of attempting a massive overhaul, she adopted micro habits, dedicating 10 minutes a day to learning about entrepreneurship, sending one networking email weekly, journaling her thoughts each evening. These small, deliberate actions slowly built her confidence, knowledge, and clarity. A year later, she launched a thriving business, amazed at how incremental steps led to extraordinary outcomes. She often reflected that without the compounding power of these micro habits, she would have waited indefinitely for a perfect moment that never came. Shi Heng Yi emphasizes that micro habits are also a shield against procrastination and overwhelm. Life often feels daunting because we focus on massive goals, which can intimidate even the most ambitious among us. Micro habits offer a way to bypass that paralysis. By breaking a goal into its smallest, most manageable components, we remove fear from the equation. Instead of facing a mountain, we face a single step, and that step is always achievable. Take a moment and consider one area of your life where fear or overwhelm has stalled you. What is the tiniest action you could take right now? writing that one sentence, making that one call, or dedicating just 5 minutes to movement could begin the cascade of progress you've been waiting for. Shi Heng Yi also teaches that micro habits influence more than just action. They reshape our thoughts and emotions. When we succeed at a small habit, no matter how minor, it rewires our brain to expect achievement. That sense of accomplishment fosters confidence, resilience, and a sense of self-efficacy. Think about the small wins you've experienced in your own life. The first time you woke up early consistently, the first time you spoke up in a meeting, the first time you resisted a bad habit. Each one built momentum, each one shaped your identity, and each one served as proof that you are capable of more than you initially believed. There's a story Shi Heng Yi loves to share about a young man named Liang who struggled with chronic disorganization. Liang's life felt chaotic, and every attempt to fix it with sweeping changes ended in failure. Shi Heng Yi encouraged him to start with micro habits, spending 5 minutes organizing his desk each morning and writing down 3 key tasks for the day. Those small habits created a ripple effect. Gradually, Liang's environment, mindset, and productivity improved dramatically. 6 months later, he was not only organized, but thriving in his career and personal life. The moral is clear: incremental change, when applied consistently, rewrites the trajectory of our lives. Pause for reflection. Consider the areas of your life where small, deliberate habits could accumulate into meaningful change. Health, relationships, learning, career, and mindset all can be transformed with tiny intentional steps. Shi Heng Yi reminds us that this is not a theory, it's a principle proven by countless lives, including his own. He shares, consistency beats intensity. Small efforts, repeated daily, outweigh sporadic bursts of extreme effort. Shi Heng Yi often uses imagery to help people internalize this principle. He describes planting seeds in a garden. A single seed seems insignificant, but when nurtured daily, watered and protected, it grows into a tree that bears fruit for years. Similarly, each micro habit you cultivate is a seed of transformation. Some days, the growth is imperceptible, yet beneath the surface, roots are strengthening, preparing for a time when the visible results will astound you. Patience and faith in this invisible process are essential. And yet, Shi Heng Yi warns that we often sabotage ourselves by waiting for motivation or inspiration. Micro habits bypass that trap because they rely not on feeling motivated, but on showing up. Even when energy is low, taking a tiny action keeps the momentum alive. He shares a personal anecdote. On a particularly challenging day, he felt drained and tempted to skip his writing habit. Instead, he committed to writing just one sentence. That single sentence, though minimal, rekindled his focus and eventually led to a full chapter. The lesson is powerful. Action, no matter how small, generates energy, momentum, and clarity. Pause again. What is one micro habit you've been delaying because you think it won't matter? Shi Heng Yi challenges you to act immediately. Start small. Start now. The results may be invisible at first, but the compounding effect will astonish you over time. This is the silent revolution of micro habits. They transform ordinary days into extraordinary lives without demanding dramatic effort, only dedication. As the momentum builds, Shi Heng Yi urges us to consider the ripple effects of micro habits beyond our own lives. These tiny, consistent actions don't just shape our personal growth. They influence the people around us, creating a quiet yet profound impact. He tells the story of a man named Jian, a father who struggled to connect with his teenage daughter. Jian felt distant, frustrated, and hopeless, convinced that their relationship could never improve. Shi Heng Yi encouraged him to begin with micro habits, spending 5 minutes each evening asking his daughter about her day, listening attentively, without judgment, and sharing one small personal story of his own. At first, it seemed trivial, almost laughable. But over time, those few minutes each day transformed their connection. The daughter began opening up, laughter returned to their home, and a foundation of trust and intimacy emerged. The power of micro-habits, Shi Heng Yi explained, extends far beyond personal achievement. It strengthens relationships, nurtures communities, and leaves a legacy that monumental gestures often cannot. Shi Heng Yi often emphasizes that micro-habits cultivate resilience in the face of inevitable setbacks. Life is unpredictable, and challenges are unavoidable, but small, consistent actions equip us with tools to navigate adversity. He shares the story of Leon, a young woman who faced a sudden career setback when her company downsized. Rather than succumbing to despair, she focused on micro-habits, dedicating 15 minutes daily to updating her skills, sending a single job application, and reconnecting with one mentor per week. These actions, repeated consistently, kept her moving forward, and eventually led her to a new career opportunity that exceeded her previous role in every way. Micro-habits don't eliminate difficulties, Shi Heng Yi explains, but they prepare us to face them with confidence, adaptability, and purpose. Pause and reflect for a moment. What small actions could you adopt today that would create resilience against the challenges you know are coming? Perhaps it's reading a page from a book that expands your skills, taking a 5-minute walk to clear your mind, or writing down one thing you're grateful for each day. Micro-habits cultivate inner strength, forming a foundation that holds steady when life tests you. Shi Heng Yi insists that this quiet, incremental preparation is often more powerful than dramatic, last-minute efforts when crisis strikes. He also highlights the importance of tracking progress, no matter how small it seems. Micro-habits can easily be overlooked or dismissed if we fail to notice the incremental gains. Shi Heng Yi encourages a simple practice. Celebrate tiny victories, however insignificant they may appear. A single glass of water extra, a 5-minute stretch, a paragraph written. Acknowledge it. Recognizing progress reinforces your commitment and motivates you to continue. He likens it to watching a plant grow. The growth is slow, almost invisible day to day, but when you look back after weeks or months, the transformation is unmistakable. One of Shi Heng Yi's favorite metaphors is that micro-habits are like building a reservoir. Each tiny action is a drop of water that slowly fills the reservoir. At first, you hardly notice the rise, but over time, the reservoir reaches a tipping point, overflowing with results, opportunities, and breakthroughs you could not have imagined when you started. This process teaches patience, gratitude, and faith in consistent effort, reminding us that success rarely happens in a single dramatic moment. It is accumulated, quietly, until it becomes undeniable. He also shares a powerful insight about identity transformation. When we commit to micro-habits, we are not merely changing behaviors, we are reshaping who we believe ourselves to be. Shi Heng Yi recalls a student who struggled with self-doubt and lack of confidence. By consistently adopting micro-habits, speaking affirmations aloud, practicing one small skill daily, and showing kindness intentionally, she began to see herself differently. Over months, her identity evolved from "I am uncertain" to "I am capable." This shift wasn't accidental, it was the direct result of repeated, intentional micro-actions that rewired her mindset. Shi Heng Yi also addresses the emotional impact of micro-habits. He notes that big, ambitious goals often create pressure, anxiety, and fear of failure, which can paralyze action. Micro-habits, however, remove this burden by focusing on small, manageable steps. They allow us to act without fear, to experience small victories that boost motivation and create a sense of agency. Each micro-habit becomes a building block of confidence, an emotional anchor that reminds us we are capable, even on difficult days. Pause again and reflect on your emotional landscape. Which areas of your life could benefit from small, consistent actions that reduce fear, stress, or overwhelm? Perhaps it's taking 5 minutes each morning to center yourself with deep breathing, or writing down one thing you accomplished each day. These tiny practices transform not only what you do, but also how you feel, shaping a mindset prepared for success and fulfillment. Shi Heng Yi also teaches that micro habits can spark creativity and innovation. When our brains are engaged in consistent, small actions, they often uncover insights and ideas that wouldn't emerge under pressure. He shares the story of a young artist, Mei Ling, who struggled with creative blocks. By committing to a micro habit of drawing for just 10 minutes daily, she unlocked a flow of inspiration that eventually led to a full portfolio of original work. The lesson is clear: even minimal action, repeated consistently, creates space for unexpected breakthroughs. Finally, Shi Heng Yi emphasizes that the most profound transformations are often invisible at first. Others may not notice the small changes you make daily, and you may doubt their significance yourself. But over time, the results become undeniable. Just as water shapes stone through persistence, micro habits shape character, habits, and ultimately destiny. The key is to start, persist, and trust the process, no matter how slow it seems. Now, as the snowball gathers unstoppable force, Shi Heng Yi urges us to embrace a deeper understanding of micro habits, not merely as tools for change, but as instruments for creating a life of meaning and purpose. Every tiny action you take sends a ripple through time, shaping not just your day, but your identity, your relationships, and the trajectory of your future. Shi Heng Yi often reflects on his own journey, recalling countless moments when he felt insignificant, powerless, or uncertain about the path ahead. In those moments, he leaned on the smallest of habits, writing a single line in his journal, taking a 3-minute walk, reaching out to one person with gratitude. Each tiny step seemed trivial at first, yet collectively, they built a foundation that enabled him to face challenges with courage, clarity, and resilience. He tells the story of a young man named Tao, who dreamed of becoming a writer, but struggled to find the motivation to start. Each day, Tao felt the weight of his aspirations pressing down, making the first step seem impossible. Shi Heng Yi advised him to begin with a micro habit, writing just one sentence each morning. Tao laughed, thinking it would be meaningless, but he agreed. Slowly, one sentence became a paragraph, then a page, then a chapter. Within a year, Tao had completed his first manuscript. The lesson is unmistakable: monumental achievement